Do you constantly feel tired? Do you constantly feel like you lack energy? Do you feel as though you would be able to start a great training program or start an online business or learn new things if only you had more energy to use in the evenings? If so, then this video is for you. So there's a lot of videos on this topic on boosting energy levels, and there's lots of articles online, but I find that all of them are somewhat uninspiring. They tend to offer the same tips and advice, and to me they're all things that are a little bit obvious and aren't going to make all that much difference.
Power at 400% capacity.
How about that?
You know, get more and better sleep. Well, yeah, I'd like to do that. That's if I could, then I would. Eat an orange every day and you'll be full of energy. It's not life-changing. So I wanted to look at some of the slightly more interesting, scientific solutions, some things that maybe you wouldn't have thought of, some things that maybe you can research further that might have an actual impact on your energy levels. That way you can train better, you can work better, you can learn more, you can enjoy your time more, and just everything is better when you've got more energy. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so about sleep. The first thing I want to discuss is improving your biological rhythms, because a lot of people say get more and better sleep, sure, and like I say, that would be great, but it's not as easy as it sounds. But how about tweaking some of the other variables? For instance, the time of day that you go to sleep, because some of us are more naturally morning larks and some of us are more naturally night owls. I'm a night owl. Left to my own devices, I'll go to bed at 3 AM and wake up at 1 PM. That's just how I roll. I've had to adapt. But point is that if you're going to sleep at a time that doesn't naturally suit you and waking up at a time that doesn't naturally suit you, then you might not be performing optimally. So instead of trying to sleep better or sleep more, perhaps just try shifting your hours one back or one forwards and see if that makes a difference. So the time of day you perform best is defined by what's known as your chronotype, and in one study it was found that athletes could improve their 100-meter sprint time by up to 26% simply by racing at the correct time that fitted with their chronotype. So this could make a huge difference to your energy in the gym, to the way you perform at work, etc. It makes a big difference. Likewise, there are things you can do to try and fix your biological rhythms to make them more in sync with the times that you have to wake up. And there are lots of signalers and indicators that tell our bodies when to be energetic and when to be sleepy. One of them is light, which I'll get to in a moment. One of them is food, the time that you eat. Because when you eat, then you produce more serotonin, and this converts in the body to melatonin, the sleep hormone. So when you eat can actually affect your biological rhythms through your external Zeitgebers, that means external time givers, and change your biological clock to one that's more or less useful for you. And that's why if athletes are playing away, if they're going on a trip on the plane and they need to deal with the jet lag, they'll often start eating their meals at different times before they get on the plane in order to shift their body clocks and more easily make that transition. Likewise, shift workers can benefit from this. So maybe try changing the hours that you eat. For me personally, eating later is better. When I have my big meal at the end of the day, then I'm done because I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm digesting. So one easy thing you can do to get more out of your evenings is just to do something productive, to tick those things off your to-do list before that big meal at the end of the day, which will cause you to crash and want to go to sleep. And another very important external Zeitgeber signal is light. So when we are exposed to light, this tells our body it's time to wake up. We produce more cortisol and we reduce the production of melatonin. Cortisol is the stress hormone, yes, but it's also very useful for waking us up in the mornings. There's no such thing as a bad hormone or neurotransmitter. They all have important roles. So in the morning we want cortisol, and in the evening we don't want cortisol because that wakes us up when we should be going to sleep. So looking at phone screens and computers, that's very bad for us. We all know this. It's hard to avoid. If you can get one of those blue light filters, then that can help on your screen. Likewise, there is Redshift software you can use, which will tone down the amount of blue light. This is light that's more similar to the wavelength of the sun. The biggest change for me that I find really useful is to get a daylight alarm. So this is an alarm that wakes you up slowly by getting brighter, like a sunrise, and it produces again that blue light that's on the more similar wavelength to the sun. So instead of being woken up in pitch darkness at 6 AM in the morning by a loud alarm, which triggers a sudden rush of cortisol, that's why it wakes us up, because it stresses us out, and then you're stumbling around in pitch blackness having been deep asleep moments ago. Instead of that, you're woken up gently, slowly brought around through lighter and lighter stages of sleep by a gradually brighter light, and then when you do wake up, you're in a room that feels naturally light and you just have a lot more energy. This is one of the reasons why people get SAD, seasonal affective disorder. This is a tiredness that comes from not getting enough sunlight, not getting enough time outdoors during the winter months. And if you think about it, if you wake up in the dark and then you drive to work and then you're working in a dark, artificially lit room, and then you come home and it's already dark again, and then you just go to bed having eaten at a weird time, then of course you're going to be exhausted and a little bit depressed. When it's sunny and light, our bodies are producing more vitamin D thanks to the sunlight stimulating that. And vitamin D, though it's called a vitamin, acts more like a prohormone, meaning it regulates the release of other hormones. This again makes it a very important signal to help our body get into the correct circadian rhythm. And so if you're not getting enough vitamin D because you're not getting enough sunlight, you're not also producing enough DHEA, enough testosterone, enough adrenaline, and you're going to be fatigued. So one other tip is to take a vitamin D supplement in the morning, but also just spend more time outdoors, even if it is cloudy. Walk to the bus, even if it's dark. A little bit of sunlight is better than none, and whilst it might not be very pleasant at the time, in the long run you'll feel more energetic and hopefully happier and more uplifted. Have you ever noticed how people who spend all their time outdoors, these outdoorsy people, sporty surfers, they seem to have unlimited energy, and that is no coincidence. This is also why going to bed at a consistent time and trying to eat at a consistent time is important, and then fitting your most productive hours in during those hours when you're feeling your best on that routine. Because if your body can't get into a rhythm, then you're going to struggle. So as much as possible, try to go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, eat at a similar time, and be productive at a similar time. Interestingly, one treatment for depression is something called wake therapy. This means that you stay awake all night, and then many subjects report that the next day, even though they're tired, their depression has gone. And more recent research suggests that wake therapy can also be useful for boosting energy levels. Whilst you'll have one day and one night where you're feeling exhausted, for the time going forwards, often people feel a lot more energetic having had that one night of no sleep. This might be something to do with resetting their biological clocks in a way. That's not something I highly recommend you trying, I'm just telling you because it's interesting. If you did think it could be beneficial for you, then I recommend you speak with your GP about that one. There's also a possibility that you might be sleeping too much. If you sleep too much, then you'll get more sleep inertia. That's the feeling of grogginess you have in the morning. Some people actually need far less sleep than others, and there are some people who get by on far less thanks to a mutation on the gene DEC2. Unfortunately, that's very rare, but who knows, in the future, maybe through gene doping or some kind of miracle supplement, we'll all be able to get by on less sleep. That's probably not a good thing though. If you did want a quick fix for your energy levels and for your health in general, then something that's really interesting to me at the moment is breathing correctly and the importance of that, because if you breathe correctly, this can improve your energy by delivering more oxygen to the parts that need it, the brain and the muscles and the organs, but also it can reduce your stress. And often what we think of as symptoms of tiredness are actually stress. Your physiology is stressed because you haven't had enough sleep. So if you're worrying about being tired, you're actually making those very symptoms worse. So if you can reduce stress, you'll feel better and more awake, as well as improving your energy. So how should we be breathing? Well, you've probably heard, if you're interested in biohacking, that kind of thing, that most of us breathe incorrectly. We breathe through our chests when we should be breathing through our stomachs. We do this by first relaxing our abdomens and letting our gut hang out, and then we let the diaphragm dip into that space, opening up the bottoms of the lungs so that we can breathe more oxygen into our chests than we would have been able to do otherwise. But it's not all just about getting more oxygen, and that's where a lot of people are going wrong. See, what a lot of people will do when they're stressed, in order to try and calm down, ironically, is to take a big gulp of air like this. And that's not right, because as you can see, I'm boosting up my chest. I'm taking in a lot of oxygen at once, but I'm not breathing deeply into the belly. And when I do that, I might actually be over-breathing. And this is what a lot of us do all the time, because we've got this incorrect breathing, which comes from poor posture and high stress levels throughout the day. So we're over-breathing, we're taking lots of shallow breaths, we're taking in lots of oxygen, but we're not filling all the way to the bottom of the lungs. And when we do that, although we've got lots of oxygen in our blood, we don't have enough carbon dioxide. And that's actually also very important for our ability to use oxygen, because mostly our red cells are saturated with oxygen. We don't need more than we're getting more than enough. The problem is using that oxygen, and this is where carbon dioxide comes in handy, because you need carbon dioxide in order to extract the oxygen from the hemoglobin. So when you breathe too quickly, too shallowly, or when you breathe big like that, you aren't allowing yourself to do that because you're expelling too much CO2, and that's when you start to starve your brain and your muscles of oxygen. This is how we are all the time. At the same time, our breathing tends to be irregular, and this sends a signal to the vagus nerve that we're stressed and that something bad's happening. And instead of having coherence, which is when you can be ramped up, you can be psyched up, but you need to be breathing in a steady in and out motion in a calm manner. And that's that's the difference between being highly focused on something and being very stressed about something. You can be focused in a positive way, you can be focused in a negative. You can address a lot of these issues by just breathing through your nose. A lot of us breathe through our mouth, and when we do that, we have the tendency to take in these big gulps. When you breathe through your nose, it forces you to breathe more slowly and more calmly. At the same time, your nose has a lot of important functions for your breath. It filters your breath, it cleans your breath, the oxygen, and at the same time it produces more nitric oxide, which is a neurotransmitter and also a molecule in the body which causes vasodilation. That means it opens up the blood vessels in order to get more oxygen and more blood around your system, to your brain, to your muscles. And it also actually helps with wakefulness. When we wake up in the morning, we produce more nitric oxide. Nitric oxide seems to play a role in the brain where it increases the area of effect for action potentials, meaning that one brain area wakes up and it causes a cascade of wakefulness throughout the brain. Point is, breathing through the nose is much better, and some studies suggest that there's a correlation between breathing through your nose and your IQ. So breathing through your mouth could actually damage your IQ, and it could even affect your attractiveness, because it's been suggested that if we breathe through our mouth as we're younger, it causes our face to become more elongated, it ruins our jaw, and this could be why many athletes have what we would consider objectively to be good looks.
I said that we can influence your blood vessels through your breath. I said that we can enhance the amount of oxygen delivered to the cells through your breath. And I said it wasn't about taking a deep breath, it was about doing the opposite.
And if you're breathing through your nose when you sleep, then you should wake up feeling much more refreshed. And this is when many of us will breathe through our mouths. So some people actually recommend taping over your mouth. Sounds crazy, don't do it if you have breathing issues or if you're a young child or you're pregnant. You know, I'm not going to be responsible for you suffocating yourself, but people who've tried it, go ahead if you want to, say that it makes them wake up far more healthily. And I have a kind of phobia, fun fact about me, where I don't like sticky things. I just don't like things being on me, okay? So I've tried like tying a scarf around my face. I'm not going to lie, it's not something I'm going to do regularly because my wife isn't attracted to me when I do that. I do think that fortunately I am someone who breathes through my nose more, which might be why I have a good jawline and a massive nose. I highly recommend that you check out the TED Talk by Patrick McKeown if you'd like to hear more about this. It's really interesting, and he's got a book called The Oxygen Advantage, also really interesting. Another breathing technique that's relevant here that can increase your energy that I'm definitely going to go into a lot more detail on in future is the Wim Hof technique, and this is a method of essentially intentionally overbreathing in order to saturate your blood with oxygen but also decrease the amount of carbon dioxide. This makes it harder for you to use all that oxygen, and that in turn creates a sudden spike in adrenaline. At the same time, it alkalizes your blood, makes you better able to withstand extreme cold apparently, and that surge of adrenaline can help boost your performance and give you a big pickup in terms of energy, helping you to exert yourself better in the gym, increasing endurance and maximum strength even. At the same time, it seems to support the immune system. A lot of people swear by the Wim Hof method and use it every morning to give themselves a kind of jump start, kind of kick of energy. Like I say, I'll go into this in a lot more detail in a future video.
Don't say it! Don't you say it!
left.
Come on!
But you know what will also boost your ability to use oxygen and to feel more refreshed and energetic as a result is cardio. And this is something people don't talk about when they're talking about boosting energy, and I don't understand that. They'll say things like take a cold shower and wear socks in bed to thermoregulate. All fine tips, but like I say, we're talking marginal improvements here. Whereas getting more exercise, and cardio exercise in particular, is going to widen your blood vessels. It's going to improve your heart's ability to deliver blood and oxygen around your body. It's going to increase your VO2 max, meaning you can use more oxygen, and increase the number of mitochondria in your cells. Mitochondria being the energy factories that allow you to use glucose. And it's been suggested that the density and quality of mitochondria might be the main difference between young children, why they've got so much energy, and elderly individuals who seem a lot more tired and exhausted. Steady state cardio, so running long distances or cycling long distances, is best for lowering your resting heart rate. I've talked about this before. It increases the size of your left ventricle so that you can pump more blood and oxygen around your body with each pump. And that means that you'll be calmer, and it means that you'll have more energy flowing into your brain for you to use throughout the day. High intensity interval training, on the other hand, seems to be particularly good for increasing your VO2 max, your ability to use a large volume of oxygen with each breath, and both will increase your mitochondrial efficiency and number. So like I say, it's not fun. If you're tired, it's the last thing you want to do, but it's the biggest change you can make probably, is to increase your cardio fitness. Speaking of increasing your mitochondrial count and function, there are of course many nutrients which can do this. Things like L-carnitine, lutein, which I've talked about on the blog quite a lot. I'll leave the link in the description down below. Resveratrol, coenzyme Q10, creatine. These things improve your ability to use ATP and increase the function of the mitochondria so that you can use glucose more efficiently. There's plenty more out there. Curcumin, also been shown to improve your glucose sensitivity. And this is the next tip. It's just to improve your nutrition in general, and in particular to get lots of healthy vitamins and minerals and all those other key nutrients. And if you can't get them from your diet, then supplement, because that's a great next best thing. Omega-3 fatty acid does a world of good for you. I talked about this in a recent video briefly. I might do a whole video on it. But not only does it improve cell membrane permeability, meaning that signals and neurotransmitters and hormones can pass through your cells more quickly, it also reduces inflammation. Inflammation in the brain is thought to be responsible for brain fog, which is what makes you feel tired and groggy and struggle to focus. It also improves DHEA production, which is a form of adrenaline which increases testosterone and reduces cortisol, cortisol being the stress hormone. And like I say, cortisol is useful for waking up, but when it is continually produced throughout the day, that's when we feel hyper, that's when we breathe funny, that's when we feel strung out, and that's what we often associate with the symptoms that we call tiredness. I very recently uploaded a post to the Bioneer where I shared a stack of supplements I've been using recently that's helped me to burn calories, burn fat, maintain muscle, and increase my energy levels. So check out the link down below if you want to see more on that. The 3 supplements on that list that I recommend the most, that I think have had the biggest benefit for me, are inositol, forskolin, and BCAAs. So inositol is a supplement that can increase your ability to utilize energy. It's sometimes referred to as vitamin B8. It prevents fat storage. Bruce Lee apparently used to use it, but at the same time it also increases the density of the receptors in your brain for the neurotransmitters dopamine and serotonin, and this can increase not only your feel-good factor, your state of calm and lower stress, but at the same time improve your motivation and your energy that way. And as we'll see later in this video, that's a big part of what it means to increase your energy. Forskolin, meanwhile, can raise testosterone, which helps to reduce stress as well and boost energy levels in that way. At the same time, though, it's also a vasodilator that affects specifically the brain and helps to increase blood flow to the brain, and that can massively increase your energy. A lot of people say it's like a cold shower for the brain, and another one that does this is vinpocetine, but forskolin has a lot of other benefits too, particularly nootropic benefits. Finally, BCAAs are branched-chained amino acids, and these can act as a source of energy. They can prevent your body from breaking down muscle, so they're great for a lean bulk, but at the same time, once again, they make you more energy efficient, and I personally think they've had a big difference. They're very effective in a pre-workout, and I've had a lot more energy in my gym workouts, I think partly thanks to this combination of supplements. Caffeine might be great in the short term for boosting energy levels, but actually it could be responsible for some of the sleep inertia that you're feeling, because some people say that one of the reasons we wake up groggy is actually because we are experiencing caffeine withdrawal, because we drink it all through the day and then we go all night without it. So if you do experience a lot of grogginess in the morning, perhaps try stopping caffeine at 3, just cutting down a bit, and see if that helps you. And the last thing I want to discuss is perhaps the most important, and that's the role of emotion in your energy levels. Because you probably know that when you're depressed, you're far more likely to feel tired and sluggish and low on motivation. And the opposite is also true. When you're passionate and enthused and engaged, then you have more energy. A great example of how this works is to think of sobriety. So say you've been on a night out or at a party and you've had a lot to drink and you're feeling pretty tipsy. Then a fight breaks out or your friend falls over and hurts themselves. What happens? Normally you sober up quickly and get your sensible hat on, and you start to be able to make decisions. You forget that you were ever drunk. Your brain has an ability to focus, to wake up when it needs to. Then you get home and you crash out later on when all that alcohol hits you all at once. The same thing happens when you're tired and unmotivated. When something important happens that you need to focus on, you forget all about that tiredness. It's very psychological. And if you think about someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Will Smith, or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, these are people who are just full of energy and enthusiasm. And when they walk into the room, you can feel the energy and the passion brimming from them. Can you imagine any of those guys having an off day? They never seem to be dull and uninterested. They never seem to be slow and tired. And that's because they're so focused on what they're doing. They love it so much that you can feel the energy coming from them, and they have that motivation to get up every single day and to hit the gym or to, go and do interviews, etc., whatever it takes. If what you're doing is something that if you're going to a job that you hate then of course you're going to feel sluggish in the morning, you're going to feel tired. Now, unfortunately, we can't all choose our jobs. I will say that if you feel that way every morning, then perhaps you should consider a change of career. But more to the point, you can also try and just find the passion in what you're doing, wherever possible. Try and remember why you're doing it. Try and focus on the end result or the thing that attracted to it in the first place. This can help to give you more of that energy and that motivation to get on through. And conversely, think about the role of stress. Stress is an energy drainer. Emotional stress is so much more tiring than physical strain. Go to the gym and yeah, you'll feel tired physically, but you'll still be able to do something productive, have a great conversation when you come home. Have a hard day at work where everyone's shouting at you, where the world is collapsing around you, and come home and worry about debt and about your relationship because you're arguing, and you're going to feel exhausted. You just want to climb under the covers and go to sleep. Stress massively tires you out, so do everything you can to reduce stress in your life if you want to boost your energy levels. That can be as simple as thinking about your commute to work, because a lot of us, we have the most stressful start to our days. Other than waking up into that dark room by that loud noise, we then get on a train where it's busy, everyone's coming at us, which is one of the universal fears that all humans have, is of people walking at us. That then increases our stress levels, and then we spend the whole day stressed at work, and then we come home and no wonder we want to crash out and just cry under a blanket. And then how are we supposed to hit the gym and feel enthusiastic or start a home business or write a novel when you've had that all day? Again, there are ways you can reduce your stress levels throughout the day, small ways, but if you feel like that, then maybe consider making some larger changes. And a lot of this does come down to prioritizing the things that are important to you, because that's the final tip, the final point I want to make. Energy is finite, and we forget this. We think that time is the problem. We say, oh, if only I had more time, then I'd be in great shape. If only I had more time, then I'd start a home business. If only I had more time, I'd stay in contact with my friends. But I bet you have time. I bet that you've watched box sets this month. I bet that you've spent time just staring at YouTube or other things you shouldn't really be doing. And that's because although you have the time, you don't have the energy. And because you don't have the energy, you don't have the enthusiasm and the motivation. Energy is the problem. And you can do all these things that I've suggested, and you can do all the things on other websites and in other videos to boost your energy levels. And I hope that some of these will make a profound difference. But at the end of the day, there's still a limited amount. At the end of the day, you need that time out in order to have the energy when you come back to work. And so you need to prioritize, and that might mean doing less. It might mean saying no sometimes. It might mean saying, if I want to do this, then I can't do this. So many people are tired and exhausted, and then they say to me, and they're overweight, and they say to me, I'm going to start a new training program, 5 days a week, an hour and a half each session, going to and from the gym. And I'm like, so you're already tired, and on top of that, you're now going to spend 15 hours of your week working out and exerting yourself. It's not going to happen. You need to cut something else out of your life to make space for that. So I hope some of this has been useful and interesting for you. I'm going to come back to a lot of these topics because I kind of just ran through a whole bunch here. I'll definitely be speaking about breathing again and the Wim Hof method, for instance, which a lot of people have had a lot of luck with. I'll be talking about flow states, and that's linked with the motivation and the heart rate coherence stuff. So stay tuned if you want more on that. Also, of course, I'll be doing more of my usual stuff on fitness and productivity, technology. So if that all sounds good, then thanks a ton for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.